Most IELTS candidates think their speaking test starts when the examiner asks the first question. It doesn't. Your score starts taking shape the moment you walk into the room. And most candidates lose points before they even realize the test has begun. Hi, I'm Ethan. Over the past 20 years, I've taught IELTS to thousands of people and have personally taken the exam several times. Here's something most candidates don't know. Your speaking score starts forming before the first real question is asked. I call this first part of the test the warm-up window. The first few minutes, where examiners quietly decide how comfortable and clear you sound. In this video, I'll show you how the IELTS speaking test really begins, what examiners notice immediately, and how to avoid the mistakes that cost candidates points right at the start. If you understand this part properly, everything else in the speaking test becomes much easier. Let's start. You might have heard that IELTS examiners assess speaking using 4 criteria: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. In another video, I fully explain those criteria. However, in practice, those criteria are simply a way of measuring how effectively you communicate. And before the examiner gets to those criteria, he wants to know 3 things: how clearly you communicate in English, how comfortable you are while expressing your ideas, and then how natural your speech flows. Your goal should not be to impress the examiner with your clever ideas or complex answers. What matters more than fancy vocabulary and complex structures is sounding confident, natural, and clear. The way a real speaker of English would communicate. The way you communicate in your mother tongue. On the exam day at the test center, you'll be waiting outside the room until the examiner calls you in. When you enter, you greet the examiner calmly and naturally. You can say hello, good morning, or good afternoon. The exact words don't really matter. What matters more is that you sound relaxed and polite with a natural smile. There's no need to offer a handshake. Just wait for the examiner's instructions. You'll be asked to sit down. In most cases, the examiner may exchange a few simple lines of conversation with you in order to break the ice. Then they'll ask you to show your identification and the exam will begin. During the exam, your voice will be recorded. So the examiner will have a small recorder in front of them and will speak some information into it. At the start of the test, the examiner will ask you a few basic questions. The first one is usually, what's your name? Simply give your full name as it appears on your passport. There's no need to add anything else. Then you'll hear, what should I call you? If you use a shorter version of your name or a nickname, this is the moment to say it. For example, you might say, just call me Ethan. After that, the examiner will ask you to see your passport. A simple sure or here you are would be more than enough. You might be asked where you're from. Keep your answer short and natural. For example, I could say, I'm from Montreal, Canada. You can also add a brief detail if you want, but there's no need to explain. All these questions are just there to collect basic information and help you and the examiner get into the interview. Examiners are people. And like the rest of us, they have different personalities. Some are warm, friendly, and attentive. They nod and smile, make a lot of eye contact, and show clearly that they're listening and following what you say. Others might be more reserved, quieter, or more formal in their manners. The examiner might not look at you very much. They may be taking notes, looking down at the assessment form, or occasionally looking away. This is completely normal and does not mean that something is wrong with you. I remember the first time I took IELTS, perhaps in 2005. My examiner was a bit on the serious side. This made me a little bit anxious. I thought maybe he doesn't like the way I behave or the way I speak. After the exam, I was talking to a fellow teacher who was pretty experienced in IELTS, unlike me. I told him how I felt, and he was like, relax, those are trained professionals who are just concerned with your English proficiency. He meets like 100 people like you a week. His reassurance made me feel better. And he was right. I ended up scoring 8.5 in speaking in that exam. Examiners are trained to assess your performance accurately, even when they're not reacting visibly. What matters is that you can stay focused and in control. If you get distracted by the examiner's behavior, your performance may suffer. So, keep your attention on speaking clearly and answering the questions. Everything else is secondary. You should also expect interruptions. The examiner controls the timing of the test. So, she might stop you in the middle of an answer in order to move on to the next part of the test. In part 3 of the speaking test, she might even challenge your ideas a little bit. This is often a sign that she believes you can handle more complex discussion. These interruptions do not affect your score, so stay calm and continue speaking confidently. All right, folks, you just learned how to use the warm up window, those first few minutes before part 1 even really starts. Here's what that means in practice. Your speaking test starts before the first question is asked. In those first 5 minutes, examiners are listening for something very simple: how clearly you communicate, how comfortable you sound, and how natural your English is. Identity questions are not a chance to perform. Keep your answers short, simple, and natural. The examiner's behavior is not feedback. Smiles, silence, note taking, or interruptions are all normal and do not affect your score. If you understand this mindset, you avoid many of the mistakes candidates make before they even start answering questions. So remember this: relax, set the tone, and let your English do the rest of the work. In the next video, I'll show you exactly how to answer IELTS Speaking Part 1 questions naturally, using this approach with real answers and real examples. Thank you for watching. If you found this video useful, consider subscribing to my channel and come back for the next part of the series. Good luck.